To all the loving couples out there, Valentine's Day is just around the corner. Unfortunately, Hard Eyes has better plans. So Hard Eyes is a brand new Valentine's Day themed horror comedy directed by Josh Rubin, and it stars Jordana Brewster, Olivia Holt, Devon Sawa, and that one guy from Scream who basically has immortality plot armor at this point. And you know, when they announced the teaser for this movie months ago, I almost knew it was going to be a home run with me because I love slasher movies, I love holiday themed movies, so when you pair the two, it's like a shoe-in layup to be one of my favorite films. But I will say this, based on my expectations of what I thought this movie was going to be, it ended up being nothing like I thought it was going to be. Because what it's about is it follows Allie and Jay, they're co-workers at this marketing firm that does romantic ads. Firm's not doing so well, so they set up a meeting so that they can fix issues within the company. But really what's going on is Jay is setting up a date with Allie on Valentine's Day, trying to get her to go out with him. She's closed off, she just got heartbroken, and Jay is kind of this smooth talking romantic. So they're going to hit it off, or so others are going to think they're going to hit it off, Hard Eyes included. So they will have a bullseye on their back for this entire movie from the Hard Eyes killer who slays couples on Valentine's Day. Now, starting off with what I absolutely loved about this film, I think the two leads in this movie have insane chemistry. So good, in fact, I would not be surprised at all if a news report comes out eventually these guys date off set. These two were perfectly cast for this movie, and I really liked the trajectory of both of their careers. I liked him in Scream, and I liked her in Totally Killer. They're doing the same shtick they did in those movies, kind of the wisecracking, quip-making joke makers. I thought they were really good in those two movies. They're both great together in this movie, and they make this movie feel a lot more interesting, a lot more funny than I expected, based on what this movie could have been if you had a duller cast. But I was sitting there thinking, what is this movie? How would I describe Hard Eyes? Because I went into this thinking it was basically just going to be My Bloody Valentine again, which it is to some extent, but I wouldn't go that far. I think it's basically three different things I broke it down into. You have Scream, you have a Lifetime movie, and then you have the show that came out a couple of years ago called Scream Queens by Ryan Murphy. Blend those together in a perfect little ball in a hodgepodge, you get Hard Eyes. It kind of all works, surprisingly. But what I really loved about this film is how ridiculous it is. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And as the movie progresses, they kind of keep finding themselves in an escalating romantic situation as it gets more ridiculous, it gets more serious. Like every time you feel like they're in danger, you kind of simultaneously start laughing because they found themselves in a more romantic situation than they were before. And that's what everyone in the movie's doing as well. They keep calling them a couple and calling them lovers. You have some pretty damn funny bits going on with people who are talking about love and what it means to marry somebody and spend your life with someone, and these two just met each other about 8 hours ago. I don't know, for me it all really worked. And there's definitely going to come a point for you in the movie theater when you're sitting and watching this and you have the thought to yourself, we are watching a horror movie, right? Because the first half an hour or so of this film feels like you're just watching a romantic comedy Lifetime movie. There's basically no horror elements. There's some mockumentary elements, but for the most part, you just feel like you're watching this couple getting to know each other. You actually almost forget that Hard Eyes is in the back burner. That's how effective the rom-com jokes are, which might be a negative to some people, but for me, it actually ended up to be a huge positive because the longer the movie went on, the more unique this movie felt. We have movies that are fully committed to horror. They're fully committed to the slasher element. This movie, I think, will stand the test of time and feel so unique because it is so committed to the rom-com jokes that it makes it stand out and feel a lot more fresh than a lot of rehashed holiday slashers. And I just gotta say, I was sitting in the movie theater laughing my ass off. Like, I realized about 20 or 30 minutes into this, I had a shit-eating grin across my face the entire movie, like 99% of it. I just did not expect that when I went into this film. I guess it was marketed as a dark comedy, but I thought it was just going to be a slasher like My Bloody Valentine, so I did not expect any of this. But I found myself consistently laughing out loud a good bit. Basically every joke, every on-running bit in this movie landed for me. Maybe it's just me, but it's like they pulled this movie from my brain, and what I didn't know I needed, they wrote a horror comedy exactly how I would have wrote this. It's like this director has the exact same sense of humor as me. This movie was basically yanked from my brain. So if you've ever watched my reviews and you wonder, what does he find funny? Why doesn't he find that funny? Watch this movie, and this movie is basically my humor to a T. I thought it was perfect. There's a scene in particular, as I said, the leads kind of keep finding themselves in these more progressively romantic situations as it goes on. But there's one scene in particular I was watching and I was crying. Like, this is an ongoing bit that goes on for about 5 to 10 minutes. And they're in this van at the drive-in theater and they're having this very serious conversation about their lives growing up and getting to know people and what it means to connect. And I was in tears. I was laughing my ass off during this scene. My theater was laughing. One of the funniest scenes I have seen in years. I have absolutely no idea how the leads kept a straight face because it just kept getting more stupid as the scene was going on and they were getting more serious. I was dying. And I could also tell when I was watching this that it was by some of the people that worked on the new Scream, because it's very meta. It's very like self-aware of how stupid it is. It's making fun of Valentine's Day cliches. It also foreshadows a lot of what this movie ends up being, which I like the same way Scream does. So I thought it was just a very creative and witty approach to a holiday slasher, as opposed to just doing a rebrand of all of those other movies we've had. If there's one thing I can maybe foresee people having a problem with, it's the fact that this is kind of two movies. As I've already said, it's like 70% rom-com, 30% slasher. So maybe traditional slasher fans are going to find themselves a little bit disappointed it's not more heavy in that department. For me, it didn't matter and it felt very unique, and I think that makes this movie stand out. With it being a slasher, I feel like I'm obligated to talk about the killer's design, and I thought Hard Eyes looked pretty badass, honestly, especially when he has his eyes glowing in the dark like in the teaser. I thought he looked really, really cool. You know, if there is a movie to compare this to and it's kind of a cheat, it is My Bloody Valentine, because the way he kills is kind of similar to the remake. And what I mean by that is he's an absolute unit. I like my killers to be fast and relentless. You know, some people like the old school Michael Myers. He walks after him. Serious business. This guy does not mess around, and I absolutely love that whenever a killer does that. I'll be interested to see how this movie does at the box office, because I think the marketing of this movie is very, very strange. It's marketed as a romantic comedy slasher. And I'm not really sure how that's going to land with general audiences, because every horror movie fan like myself is always going to see this movie. It does not matter what the marketing is. So those type of couples will probably see this film. Actual couples that don't like horror movies all the time, they just want a romantic comedy, I'm not really sure this movie's going to win them over and they're going to see it, unfortunately. But I think they would love it, because I basically think this is the perfect date movie. But it will be interesting to see how that plays out, because I just don't know if it's going to win over the average fan without already getting the people they're going to get for horror movies. So it's just a very strange blend of a movie that unfortunately I don't really see doing well. But I don't have a lot of stuff I don't like about this film. In my opinion, for what it's trying to be, this is basically a perfect movie. I had an absolute blast with this film. I adored it. I thought it was incredibly creative. I thought it was fun. I thought it was original. I thought the horror and the kills were creative enough as well. Not a super abundant amount of them, but they are unique enough, and they use a bunch of different approaches that are just kind of creative with the stuff around them. All of that bundles up nicely for a movie that I will definitely be rewatching in theaters. I thought Hard Eyes was awesome. As I already said, the perfect date movie in my opinion, and if you take my reviews seriously, if you follow my channel for a little bit, this movie, I will go as far as to say, might be my favorite movie I've ever done a review on my channel of, so take that. But when you guys do eventually go see this movie, please come back, comment down below, let me know what you thought of it. Did you love this movie as much as I did? As always, join me down below. I love talking movies with you, but I will see you in the next review. Peace.